Well, good evening, everyone. This is Andrew Williams Jr. And today we're celebrating Global Business Incubation. Just to let you know, they've asked me to charter up this GBI 2030. So I thought it was appropriate for me to invite Mr. Herschel Daniels Jr.
Well, thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. My organization is especially interested in incubation and incubation around veterans because of the program that we launched on October 6th in Orange County in Florida, which most people know.
Herschel,
yes.
Please understand that no one yet knows who you are. So if you would be so kind as to introduce your organization, yourself, etc. And if you're possible to share your screen, that would be good. This is a live broadcast. But of course, if you're unable to do so, I'll accept what you're able to do. But please be considerate of the audience.
Oh, I didn't understand that you weren't seeing me. Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. So my name is Herschel Daniels, and I am the chairman of Friends of the African Union at friendsoftheafricanunion.com. We were created in 2012 at the call and behest of the African Union's first ambassador to the North American continent on December 16th, 2011. She held a meeting in Africa House, which is the headquarters of the African Union in Washington, D.C., to represent the then 1.15 billion people on the African continent. And so, having previously lived in Africa as an oceanographic tech, I had a contract in Egypt, and I lived in Alexandria when I was much younger, decades, when you can start counting in a half century on your history, so when I was much younger, I lived in Alexandria, Egypt. And then I later served under His Excellency David Morrow, who was the senior honorary consul for the Republic of Guinea to the United States. And so now in 2022, Friends of the African Union worked last year, since 2014 to last year, to get past the permanent form of people of African descent in the United Nations. For all people who are listening to this who are people of African descent, your world changed August 2nd, 2021, and will change again on December 5th this year, when the permanent form of people of African descent meets for the first time in Geneva, Switzerland, and then next year for the second meeting in New York City at the United Nations headquarters. So we're involved in that. If you go to friendsoftheafricanunion.com, you'll see that. And you'll see my published book, digitally published book for free. Okay, how did we get here? Okay, so it's a 300 and some page, historical of not only how did we get here through June 19th, 2022, but also it lays out in the first introduction section our plan of action around creating a global compact for democracy with a hashtag just economy, based on the hashtag Black Folks Plan in that work. And if you want more information about the Black Folks Plan, just go to blackfolksplan.org and it'll redirect you. So is that a good enough introduction there, Andrew?
Oh, thank you so much. And now let me introduce the Friends of the African Union Bermuda Americas Bureau. Just to let you know, as I said, this is beginning, this conversation is based on global business incubation. They've been somewhat dormant for the last several years. Unfortunately, the chief researcher, Paul McDonald, passed away just a couple of years ago, but it has been Paul Ruffin who in 2013 stepped in, along with others, and I see Brad Carson's joining us now, to uplift the idea of the GBI Emerald Veterans. It was in fact that organization that earlier today hosted retired General Arnold Gordon Bray as our guest earlier today, Herschel. So I do want to let you know that what we're looking for is ways that we can engage a global audience with a plan of action that aligns the global business incubation vision of providing opportunities around the world for entrepreneurs to be able to engage the latest technology in a 10-part teams format. I am take this opportunity now to stop sharing my screen and ask if Mr. Brad Carson would like to introduce himself, or if he's just going to be here as one of the guests. And furthermore, Herschel, before he does that, I started my own think tank in 1984. So GBI was the second think tank that I joined. I consider Friends of the African Union to be the third think tank I joined, but we are all part of the Encounter think tank here in Los Angeles, California, that Brad Carson and Brittany Carson are very much aware of. So Brad, you have this opportunity, if you choose, and Brittany, to unmute and introduce yourself. Thank you for joining
us. Good evening, everybody. I'm Brad Carson. 35 years LA County Deputy Probation Officer. I've been getting jobs for mostly gang members for 32 of those years. Anything I couldn't do as a probation officer did on my own time and on my own dime, as being the founder of Jobs Create Peace Coalition. The president now is my daughter, Brittany. I'm the founder of PV Jobs, United Job Creation Council, and the president of United Hood Nation.
Well, thank you so much. And it's in that context, Brad, that we're having this meeting. As I mentioned to Herschel, just a few days ago, Phil Brown asked me to revive and provide a narrative for GBI through 2030. So to me, that very much means what the work that you've been doing here is concerned. And for Brittany, the work she's done in the community. So I want to just have an opportunity for our guests here to share their vision of what they see looking forward for the next 12 months and hopefully for the rest of the decade. So with that, Brittany Carson, please introduce yourself.
Andrew, okay, and Brittany and Brad, as you can see, I'm out in a restaurant now. I thought I was going to be at my office, okay, rather than that. So if you could give me the pleasure of giving you a quick summary of the 2030.
Please, go right ahead, Herschel.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow at Bretton Woods in New Hampshire, the 2022 Bretton Woods Global Summit will go on. And New Hampshire is one of the 4 whitest states in America. And so, but it's also the first state in America's selection of the next president to have a vote. And so what we are doing in the BIPOCA Alliance of New Hampshire is what we're doing in California, Ohio, Florida, is Blacks have a plan. It's called the Black Folks Plan. Indigenous people have a plan. It's called the Indigenous Peoples Plan. Joining in with people of color through the Indigenous Peoples Alliance of the United Nations and the incorporated American version, Indigenous Peoples Alliance of America out of San Diego, that we announced on September 26th in Los Angeles County in a meeting with the CEO's office on the work that they were doing around reparations and the state of Black Los Angeles County, that we were going to create a public-private partnership proposal for Los Angeles County as a national model based on the September 28th historic meeting at the White House around food, hunger, nutrition, and health. That meeting has not been held at the White House since 1969. At that meeting, we built on our 2021 September 23rd United Nations Food System Summit submission of 351 pages, which included the United Hood Nation. And as part of what we submitted to Mayor Demings on October 6th in Florida, in Orange County, includes the United Hood Nations as the runner of our Black Lives Matters infrastructure. And we set out an agenda that around executive orders that are in place right now, not real soon now, right now, and the usage of the PNC $88 billion 4-year community benefit agreement that is in place right now, that PNC, through our connection as a member of the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, that we will use that to generate jobs, and that will program for that. And in the following, like I said, tomorrow at the 2022 Bretton Woods Summit, we are going to put this in the world for 200 minutes to change the world at that summit, which in 1944 laid out a program of action. And so we're now going to lay out tomorrow the framework for a program of action that GBI and veterans will play a key role relative to doing this. And so that we said with United Hood Nation, okay, bringing the hood to the table as we see the long-awaited vision of the creation of a dynamic world committed to what is in the United Nations, which is now threatened. And so that this agenda with Friends of the African Union, African Diaspora Directorate, I look forward to working with everybody on that. I have to go. There seems to be a problem right here. I'll try and come back in. I'll turn it over to you, to Brad. And Brad, just for the record, what Mashawn Kinsey sent you is for FAU is so far null and void. He has not responded to the license requirements. And as of Monday, that license will be canceled. All right.
Okay, that's good information. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for your patience. I just walked through the presentation that Herschel had shared with us. So Brad and Brittany, I'll turn the floor over to you. I thought, Brad, you were going to come in a little bit later, but now it's fine if you have time. And if you have an interest in sharing with our audience your thoughts and visions about ways we could work together with United Hood Nation, Jobs Create Peace, for this vision going forward. The floor is yours.
Well, in light of what Herschel Daniels says with the Black Folks Plan, we are in affiliation with Herschel Daniels Black Folks Plan, Friends of the African Union. From our point of view, that affiliation with the Black Folks Plan, they emphasize public-private partnerships with the government, which goes hand in glove with United Nation. We emphasize the community, particularly on the grassroots level. That's why we call it hood. We have access to people that have what we call a license to operate, gain truce peacemakers. We're endorsed by the Crips and Bloods and the Nation of Islam on the street level. Brittany can talk about Jobs Create Peace, which is essentially not only our motto, but it's our main theme of how we actually operate by creating a job, creating peace. With that said, there's a third element, and that's the corporations, private corporations that we are also affiliated with through another network. I won't mention it at this time. So we have United Nation has essentially 4 major networked affiliates and functions. The first one is United Nation Peace Council, which is a bunch of gang truce peacemakers, as I stated earlier. The gang truce peacemakers have asked us on this channel, on this Zoom that we're meeting with right now, to do two things. One is to structure the community to be in support of the gang truce, and two, create guaranteed jobs to support the gang truce. The guaranteed jobs, our definition of a job is a legitimate, moral, ethical, and sustainable forms of income that sustains yourself, and in my case, myself, my wife, and my 3 kids called a family. Anything that is not legitimate, moral, ethical, and sustainable is not a job. So the opposite of that would be illegitimate, unmoral, or immoral, unethical, and unsustainable forms of income. That is not a job. So our motto, as I stated before, is that jobs create peace. And the whole idea is to empower the gang truce peacemakers to go on the unethical, immoral, and unsustainable side of our economy, and then pull them over to the legitimate, moral, and ethical and sustainable forms of economy. And that brings us to the second phase, which is the job creation, the United Nations job creation. Brittany is going to talk more about that because she is the chair. The third major element or network is United Nations Education and Literacy. And education is essentially based on science, technology, engineering, and math. We throw in architecture, we throw in the arts, we throw in medicine, and now it's STEAM squared on steroids. Literacy is both financial literacy as well as technology literacy. And then the fourth element and affiliated network of United Nations is United Nations Interfaith Clergy Council. And so there's a chair involved in each one of those networks. How it works is we identify members, and then those members, volunteer or self-select which committee that they're going to be involved in. Is going to be one vote per member, and then each committee they vote for their own chair. You bring all the chairs together, and now they vote, and they run like a legislative branch of United Nations on what activities that they all want to get around, separate from the ones that they're doing individually as their individual network. The other main subcommittees essentially, or supportive committees, is communications, which is a website, social media services, and a project management back office database system. Then there's internal affairs, self-explanatory. External affairs, there's a judicial branch, essentially of what we have already collectively agreed upon, and then there's a finance committee to help us fund all of our activities. So those are essentially the 9 basic committees. Each one has a chair, as I stated before, and that's the organizational structure. With that said, here in Los Angeles County, as you heard Herschel Daniels, in my opinion, we're leading the nation. We have created local hiring ordinances, and Brittany can talk about that a little bit more on the job creation side, so that every time we build a road, a school, a bridge, a harbor, park, anything using our tax-paying dollars, particularly capital improvement, public works dollars, we have a local hiring ordinance in which 30% of the man hours is local. 10% of the man hours to build that is also for targeted disadvantage, from targeted at-risk populations within targeted at-risk communities or zip codes, which is commonly called for probationers, parolees, gang members, and felons and veterans. With that, we've institutionalized that process, putting it into municipal code so that the LA City has endorsed it, and not endorsed it, has put it in their municipal code. The LA County has put it in their municipal code. Regionally, through the Metro Transit Authority of Southern California, basically has put it in their municipal code. Statewide, through the California High-Speed Light Rail, has put it in their municipal code. And now nationally, through the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that the White House under Joe Biden is pushing. So we have institutionalized that process at every level, and now it's up to us to make sure that we implement it and that we, as a people, get our fair share of our tax-paying dollars, of the services that it creates, of the jobs that it creates, and of the contracts that it creates. And that's what this coalition, and that's what all of our affiliates do collectively and as well as individually. And with that, I'm going to pass it to.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brittany Carson. I'm the daughter of this guy over here, and I am currently the president of Jobs Create Peace and the chair of the Job Creation Council. So Jobs Create Peace, as my father has said, it's premisely a coalition of the most hardcore at-risk. Well, at this point, we called them youth at the time, but now their age ranges from youth all the way up to adulthood, who are basically the shot callers of their hood, of their nation, of their hood. So we basically created a coalition, and in that coalition, the whole premise is to create a network amongst themselves where they can decide and basically, they can decide upon the services, the workforce developments, the projects for themselves that are basically most beneficial to their hood. So we are currently building out that network. We are currently building out and basically exchanging that network for peace. So you are no longer allowed to do those immoral, unethical, and illegitimate forms of income, because we basically bridge the gap utilizing their own street codes in order to basically create a smooth transition into the moral, ethical, and sustainable forms of income. So that's Jobs Create Peace in a nutshell. And like I said, we are currently implementing that. As far as Job Creation Council, we have tied to, and which is why Herschel Daniels and the FAU is so important. We tie ourselves to the public-private partnerships, to the governmental programs that are already involved. My father, through probation, has implemented, another basically pilot program that's leading the nation called Invest, that basically ties probation to work to the WIOA system, which at the time was called the Workforce Innovation Opportunities Act, which they kind of changed it to economic innovation. They just changed it. And the whole premise is that through probation, tying it to WIOA, we are able to now target specifically probationers, and we also pulled it to parole. And ultimately, they now have a way out. We literally are tied into the Cal jobs, to EDD, to the housing, all of the basic services needed in order for a person to be job ready. And so those are part of the services and the governmental, basically, partnerships that then allows the street teams, the hood, and on top of that, the CBOs, the community-based organizations, to easily help anybody and lead them to a sustainable, moral, and ethical forms of income. And so it basically expands it out. Additionally, we are also trying to partner for the infrastructure bill, because that is basically a $1.2 trillion bill that we can ultimately create a sustainable economy on. So we are, so that is ultimately why we want to partner with Herschel Daniels. That is why we're happy to be here. And through this public-private partnership, we can really make a difference. So
we spent, I personally spent over about 32 years in creating local hiring, and that's on the W-2 side of our capitalistic economy. Where we're going next is the original question that Andrew Williams asked us, is we're going on the 1099 side now of our economy, and that's where global business incubation comes into play. That's where we get the actual contracts, both privately and publicly, and then that's the supply side as well as of our economy, and that's where all the generational wealth is going to be created to pass down from generation to generation, and break the cycle of poverty and crime in that way. So that's where we're at as far as United Nations. There's other things that I could talk about. The United Nations is also based upon the United Nations 17 sustainability goals, as well as the African Union, and bringing us back to the motherland where we originated. So we can talk about that. I'll end this speech by saying that there's 10 things that we must do as American citizens, descendant of slaves, under the United Nations 10-point plan. And that is number one, we must own and control the land, including the air, water, and mineral rights of the land. Number two, we must then build on the land, which is the construction, building, trade industry. That's why we went after local hiring in the first place. Number three, we then must do business on the land. Those are all social enterprises that we are creating through our Job Creation Council. Number four is that we have to educate our own people. That should be a no-brainer. Number five, we have to mentor our own people. Number six, we have to train our own people. Number seven is that we have to hire our own people. Number eight, we have to recycle our own dollars within our own community. Number nine is that we have to hold our elected representatives, political officials, as well as our governmental department heads accountable to our own tax-paying dollars, so that, as I stated before, we get our fair share of the tax services for our community, the jobs that it creates, and the contracts that it creates. And number 10, we have to hold our own selves accountable. So that when we design, and we have to design, build, and maintain and operate our own safe, healthy, resilient, smart communities, utilizing our own people. So that's the 10-point plan, and that corresponds with the Herschel Daniels Black Folks Plan and GBI Global Business Incubation Network. And so I'm glad I'm here. If there's any questions, let me have it.
Well, technology is only great when it works. But I want to pick up where you left off, Brad. Again, I was asked to bridge the gap, so to speak, from where we are to where we want to be. And as you know, Brad, scenario motion pictures is the art of presenting the reality that you envision in the future and then work your way backwards towards there. But you mentioned something very important, the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm sharing with you now, Brittany, and you particular, because the reality is that we here in the United States are unfortunately the first country to pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement in 2015, but of course we were brought back in. But Howard University contributed to a study. They did this around Juneteenth in 2021, And it identified a challenge that I am asking the United Hood Nation to join me in accomplishing, which is to address this issue of the fact that the United States has failed to deliver on a promise of racial equality based on these guidelines that are not local, but global. So as the United Hood Nation steps up to empower its own participants, I think it's very important that we have a guideline to work with. In particular, I'll just read this out loud. I did put it in the chat, Brittany, so hopefully you'll click this link or you'll be able to capture it. But the U.S. is failing to deliver on its promise of equal equality. While the U.S. founding documents assert that all men are created equal, this value is not demonstrated in outcomes across areas as diverse and varied as education, justice, health, gender, and pollution. On average, white communities receive resources and services at a rate approximately 3 times higher than the least served racial communities. Excuse me. Evidence shows that unequal treatment impacts each of these communities. However, it is most often Black and Indigenous communities that are left furthest behind. So this chart will show you that Hawaii is the only state now that's approaching even halfway, and that's at 45.6%. Unfortunately, California does not even rate in the top 10%. I do want to also stop this briefly and share with you the fact that it was me, thanks to Brad Carson inviting me in 2016 to be there at the launch of the United Hood Nation, that I did there what I do here, which is I share material worldwide. So Brad will verify the fact that what we're doing here in Los Angeles has impacts not just across those 30 cities where Minister Tony Muhammad was traveling in 2016, but we actually reached a worldwide audience that are following the lead of the United Hood Nation even today, even in places like Bermuda. And we've had people that have visited from there here. So I'm asking you, Brad and Brittany, to help me make a commitment from the United Hood Nation to address this very crucial issue of making sure that we, in fact, educate our community about what the Sustainable Development Goals are and target those specific outcomes to show that we are the ones leading the community ahead in this next decade. Thank you.
I was like, that is the main premise of why we started this in the first place. As Andrew Williams was mentioning in 2016, we were called to action from the community itself, specifically the hoods, during the major killings of police brutality against Black people and Black bodies. That is what brought us to the table and specifically got us called into action specifically by the hood in the first place. So the 2016 was started during, United Hood Nation was created in the midst of that from the actual community members. So we are all about the racial equality. That is one of our driving principles. And which is why we are definitely about getting our fair share of the services and creating it in a way that makes it sustainable, and then where we're able to circulate our own dollars within our specific community so we can create a local economy. So all for it.
So we are committed, as you already know, and we don't believe in reinventing the wheel. So we adopted the United Nations sustainable goals. We adopted the African Union's
Sustainable goals.
Sustainability goals and agenda. And I want to also add, it should be noted that in LA County, between the years of 2016 and 2020, LA County has passed local measures and taxes basically on those measures, and has passed local hiring on measure W for water, Measure H and Measure HHH for housing the homeless. Measure A for parks. Measure M for the Metro Transit Authority. Measure CC for the LA Community College District, which is education. Measure EE is for LA Unified School District, which is the elementary part of our education system here in Los Angeles. And then it culminated around 2020 with Measure J. Measure J is an anti-racism agenda, or let me put it another way, an anti-racism against Black people and Black and indigenous people of color agenda, in which racial inequity disparity is now being addressed on a public policy level, in which in each LA County department, there's 37 different county departments like LA County Probation, LA County Department of Social Services, LA County Department of Public Works. There's 37 different departments. Each county department has to give a report and a record of what they're doing individually, and then it's now being collected collectively through the LA County CEO's office and given to the LA County Board of Supervisors in that report on how we're going to go from racial equity and disparity to racial equity parity. Now, there's only a couple of visionaries that have the, in my opinion, the ability to implement that. And we're talking to them on this phone call pretty much right now.
Well, in that regard, I do want to bring to your attention that another member of the Encounter think tank is Jean Holm, and she's involved with the city of Los Angeles. As you know, Brad Carson, it was Jean Holm that worked with Michael Rendler and also Marcella Oliva in developing what has now become known as the VCAP, a virtual community action planning tool. But I had the opportunity to actually visit the County of Los Angeles about 2 years ago, along with Kenneth Wyrick, because there was actually a launch here in Los Angeles County of a sustainability plan. There's a 2-minute video I'm going to share with you just briefly, if I could, because the challenge, Brad, is not so much that we're not doing things, right? The challenge is having us to quantify what it is we're doing. So all I'm suggesting is that we identify those specific areas, and then the more we're able to show that we're actually doing these things already, that, quote, the government is, quote, supposed to be doing, but we're doing it at the grassroots and civil society. That's the only way I believe we can show that we're the ones that are responsible for the outcomes that they're getting paid to do, that we're qualified to get paid to do. But
exactly. Because Michael Rendler and the VCAP is actually the chair of our education. So that is exactly the principle of UHN and what we're trying to do. So quantify, identify, answer the questions.
Got it.
Get to the main point.
Okay, I'm going to play this brief video here. It's only 2 minutes long, and then we can wrap it up or take any questions.
We're going to create the most ambitious, comprehensive regional sustainability plan ever, and it's going to be groundbreaking and lead the nation in how you address these issues.
LA County is a very big place. 1 out of every 33 Americans lives in LA County. Think about that.
This is an opportunity for the county to start to integrate and really respond to the voices of our communities.
Many times communities like ours are not listened to or not part of the process or just don't know how to be engaged.
When you work with electeds and when you work with other organizations, we can actually create plans that's more not just inclusive, but representative of what our community needs to look like.
What would you dream of if we had a perfect county that was healthy, equitable, and sustainable?
You don't have to choose between clean air and good jobs. We can have them both.
We believe in environmental justice. We believe in responsible sustainability, and we have an obligation to do that.
What kind of a planet, what kind of a place are we leaving behind for next generations?
People truly care about their community, and they're suffering real harms from the environmental pollution that's in our atmosphere.
We just need a better opportunity to succeed. That's the reason why I care, and that's the reason why I'm doing this.
Because we know we have a responsibility to be caretakers of this place where we're at.
They're talking about the environment because that's the part that we all live in. It's universal.
The more we get out of this, the better we will feel, the better our children will feel, the better future generations will feel about what we are doing.
And I think this sustainability plan is one of those really big solutions.
We have the political will, we have the creativity, and we have the persistence.
This is a plan that's really going to be a roadmap for us all.
People coming out and having their voices heard, no matter what community you come from.
That's why this is our voice and our county.
This is our county.
Este es nuestro condado.
This is our county. Este es nuestro condado.
This is our county.
This is our county.
Es nuestro condado.
This is our county.
This is our county.
This is our county.
This is our county, and we need to care. We need to start caring about that.
Thank you for taking that time. This is our county, and that's where you can find that information. Brad, I'll turn it over to you for any closing thoughts, or Brittany, and thanks for your time.
That's what we're all about. And I believe that LA County is about, I don't want to brag, but about 15 years ahead of most other counties and states in the United States. And I believe that, as Herschel Daniel stated, that we can take this model anywhere and everywhere in this world.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. This is Andrew Williams Jr. This has been the United Hood Nation portion of the Global Business Incubation event for today. Thank you so much. And we're going to wrap it up today. Have a fantastic